Princess Bonnibel Bubblegum, also known as PB, Probs, and a dizzying array of other nicknames, is easily one of my favourite characters in Adventure Time. She's smart, she's logical, and as leader of the Candy Kingdom, she arguably has more responsibility on her shoulders than any other main character. When the show opens, not only does she have to deal with the deranged Ice King and the brutal Flame King, she has the most evil force in Ooo, the Lich King, imprisoned in a hidden room in her tower. PB's under a lot of pressure. Some people have argued that PB is a tyrant, most notably the character Tree Trunks in the show. I think that by looking at how PB's personality and philosophy shape her actions, her colder and more callous side can be, if not appreciated, at least better understood.
That's what's important, right? What's in our heart, not how objectively our actions affect other people.
So let's start at the beginning. The episode Bonnibel Bubblegum shows us how PB struggled with loneliness as a child. The details aren't clear, but at some point she was torn away from the Mother Gum with her brother Neddy. For much of Adventure Time, what Princess Bubblegum craves most of all is a sense of community. The world is a harsh place. Facing a traumatic loss, dealing with a dysfunctional family, switching to decaffeinated coffee, these are all the kinds of trials we can go through in life. PB, to her credit, remains optimistic at heart. Her motivation is to create and protect a community that is peaceful, harmonious, and happy. Believe it or not, PB's actions match consistently with one of the more famous schools of Western philosophy. In particular, there are ideas promoted by the consequentialist philosopher Jeremy Bentham that fit Bubblegum rather well. The goal is to take an analytical look at the character, and we're doing that using philosophy as a tool. For Bentham, everything, even social concepts like rights, duties, and ethics, can be reduced to mathematics and explained in mathematical terms. This fits Princess Bubblegum nicely. When confronted with a moral dilemma, she leaps to a logical and mathematical solution. In the episode James, Bubblegum is trapped in a broken, stranded vehicle surrounded by advancing monsters. She and her three companions, Jake, Finn, and James, have a slim chance to escape. If one of them can distract the dim-witted monsters, the others can make a break for it. Finn chooses to sacrifice himself so that the others can escape, and PB responds by knocking him out. She later explains to him why. With this sample of James, I can clone a new one. He's Candy, you're not. I can't clone another you. And here we reach the mathematics underlying PB's answer to the moral dilemma. If Finn sacrifices himself, the team is down 1. But if James sacrifices himself, once PB clones a new one, they lose 1, then add 1. With James's sacrifice, James dies, but in terms of numbers, the net loss is 0. Now, an alternative explanation is that PB is too attached to Finn and is merely rationalizing her sacrifice of the person she cares about the least. The thing is, PB makes these kinds of cold calculations in many episodes. Having said that, she does have moments of warmth amid that ice-cold ethical decision-making, and over time her philosophy evolves. We're going to look at just a few episodes to indicate how PB's philosophy evolves over time. The Season 5 episode Razzleballs shows us the distant past of the Candy Kingdom, in which Princess Bubblegum created a force of gumball robots to protect her kingdom. The robots succeeded, and did Bubblegum reward them? No. Once peace was secured in the Candy Kingdom, the gumball robots were the most violent beings around. Fearing they would present a new threat, Princess Bubblegum destroyed them. Bubblegum simply looked at the consequences. She weighed the good against the bad like a mathematician. Did the potential threat of armed, violent robots roaming the Candy Kingdom outweigh the potential benefit? Ultimately, PB decided the risk of bad consequences outweighed anything else. Interestingly enough, when Bubblegum encounters the sole survivor, the eponymous Rattleballs, he tells her he wants to serve her, but he hopes she has become less bloodthirsty. In response, she spares Rattleballs, telling him to serve her in the shadows. Over the course of the show, we see PB's hard mathematical approach to ethics gradually erode over time. In real life, it is quite hard to completely cast off a long-held worldview. The change in tiny increments makes her a more believable character. Over the course of the show, PB comes to embody the surveillance state. She has access to camera feeds showing not just trouble spots in her kingdom, but the private lives of those she trusts the most notably Finn and Jake, and without their knowledge of that. This is logical in consequentialist philosophy. Funnily enough, it was the consequentialist philosopher Jeremy Bentham who pioneered an early idea of constant social surveillance, the panopticon. In unpublished writings of 1797, Bentham rooted his design of the panopticon penitentiary in the idea that the more strictly we are watched, the better we behave. Today, the panopticon influences the architectural design of prisons. Let's tie this broad concept to an episode of the show. Blow up the Candy Kingdom. I've been saying it for months now. Wise words that anyone would agree with if they were as deranged as Flame Princess's brother apparently is. Thanks to secret surveillance of the Fire Kingdom, PB knows that Flame Princess is keeping this suggestion of war in mind. Arguably, the tension between the leadership of the Candy Kingdom and the Fire Kingdom, shown in the Season 6 episode The Cooler, shows us PB at her worst. The episode focuses on the dark side and personal consequences of PB's motivation to protect her community of candy citizens at all costs. In the episode The Cooler, Flame Princess sees that her kingdom is slowly freezing over. She reaches out to PB for help, which is ironic. PB is responsible for freezing the Fire Kingdom in the first place, also that she can carry out her sabotage. In reaching out, Flame Princess is putting aside her bad history with PB, who has imprisoned her at least twice in the past. In response to Flame Princess's selfless maturity, PB tricks her and sabotages the Fire Kingdom's fire giants, its emergency arsenal of super weapons. When Flame Princess realizes what's happening, an argument ensues. PB describes the fire giants as too dangerous to remain functional. It should be noted here that PB's concern for consequences only extends to those she considers her people, the ones she sees herself as responsible for. When Flame Princess calls out PB for being cold in how she treats people, following up by flat out calling her a bad person, PB comes to a realization. She has become focused on consequences, actual or merely possible, at the expense of having any real connections with other people. For example, in the episode, PB's friendly concern towards Flame Princess is fake. The way she deceives the people around her, while well-intentioned, has repercussions. That episode ends with PB saying she's not a bad person, going home, and pulling the plug on her surveillance operation. It's a concrete sign that she has decided her consequentialist mindset has become too extreme. She recognizes that she needs to rethink her philosophy, her way of interacting with others. In the Season 7 episode Varmints, PB is grappling with the loss of the Candy Kingdom to the King of Ooh. One of the first things she says to Marceline when Marcy finds out about it is, "I'm trying to be less mean." Sure, she says it because she's worried she's being mean to Marcy at the time. But I would argue that the script and the delivery emphasize this because it's part of Bubblegum's character arc. She is trying to be less mean. We saw it with Rattaballs, we saw it with Flame Princess in Cooler, and now it comes out in a blunt confession to Marceline in Varmints. Bubblegum is flawed. The sense of community she wants is impossible if she continues to be so callous to the people around her. At the end of Varmints, she admits to Marceline that she realizes she's been pushing people away. Further into the episode, Bubblegum says, "I didn't always have to worry about so many things, you know? The Candy Kingdom used to be so small, so manageable. Then it kept growing and growing, and there was always some new disaster to prepare against." It's an admission by PB that she has had to respond to problems on the fly. She may be smart, but she isn't perfect. Her clever solutions have finally failed her. Now she's lost her kingdom, and she has a chance to really reevaluate everything. Her reevaluation does seem to have paid off in the Distant Lands Special Obsidian, when she seems to have found a sense of peace. She's broken her habit of pushing people away and has built a warm, cozy home with Marcy. As far as we can tell, by letting go of that coldness she used to have, she's found happiness. Now at this point, you may be thinking that the show's depiction of PB's philosophical outlook, as I've described it, is pretty straightforward. PB had a cold and callous personal philosophy that she had to give up in order to find happiness. Well, not so fast. I'm going to wrap up with a final point on why it makes sense that PB had such a coldly rationalistic and impersonal philosophy in the first place. To do this, we'll look at one last episode. In the episode The Vault, Shoko, a one-armed girl who is one of Finn's past lives, befriends PB. And why not? Finn is friends with PB in the present. It makes sense he'd befriend her in a past life, right? However, in this past timeline, Finn's past life Shoko has a dark ulterior motive. PB thinks she rescued Shoko from a criminal gang called the Bathboy Gang. The truth is that Shoko has been working for the Bathboy Gang the whole time and is angling to steal a precious amulet from PB. But why is this all significant? In the vault, we see a PB who is not cold. She's laid back and genuinely warm and caring. Shoko manipulates PB's empathy for her. Each time Shoko tells PB a story about the trials she had growing up, PB grows more sympathetic. And over time, PB takes Shoko further and further into her trust. Shoko betrays PB when she steals PB's special amulet. Shoko dies before she can take the amulet to the Bathboy gang, but the loss of the amulet may have had serious consequences. The amulet appeared to be linked to the safety of the Candy Kingdom, as shown when PB uses it to create the first Gumball Guardians. Ultimately, PB jeopardized the safety of the kingdom based on her own personal feelings and her desire to be kind to someone she cared about. We don't know how many times PB got burned for being kind to the wrong person. All we know is that eventually PB came to put cold, hard consequences and impersonal logic over her personal feelings. Once, she really did take chances with people in order to be kind. Therefore, the change she undergoes in the main timeline of Adventure Time is more complex than her simply discarding her bad philosophy. PB lived through dark times when she didn't know who she could trust, and maybe back then, rationalistic consequentialism really was the best philosophy she could have as a beleaguered leader. Maybe she needed to be a bit callous. However, when Finn, Jake, and Marcy mature and become good friends she can rely on, PB can be more flexible, less cold, and more kind. If you enjoyed my philosophical look at a princess made of gum, you can help the channel by liking and subscribing. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed already. Have a great week and thank you for watching.